Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Muhammad Rasulullah. Well, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as I say, is an embodiment of values, a paragon of virtue, a manual for any aspiring Muslim, either you are an adolescent, an old man, a young man. Muhammad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, best explained in the Holy Quran his capacity and his status in relation to mankind when Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. But before that verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ فِي هَذَا لَبَلَاغًا لِقَوْمِ الْعَابِدِينَ. That is, people who are devoted or who are willing to become subservient servants to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I must thank this association, especially this untiring brother. He has been very much on my back 24 hours because previously I have taken that oath, not an oath in the sense that if I do go against it, it will be a sin. But I have just come to realize within myself that I should never be giving any lectures in English language anymore in this country. Not that I am against English or the British people, no, because I've come to believe that for my people to understand the thoughts that I want to transmit, it has to be through my language, the one that Allah has given to me naturally. That is Mandinka and Olof or Jola or any other language. But that doesn't mean that I am a nationalist or a xenophobic or any other negative description that might just be playing in the minds of others. But anyway, what is important in language is just to give a thought. It is a channel. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ. So this is the basis of the importance of language, and it is which gives you the value of one language against the other. But nonetheless, let us go straight into the topic, because this is a very, very important topic and it has come at the right time. And I must raise a point that actually I had an argument with him. I told him that so many Islamic associations are emerging up in this country, but 99% of them died before they are born, stillborn. So I don't think yours, should meet the same fate, because it is based on three principles. You do it for the sake of Allah, you are honest with yourself, and you are sincere with the person you are talking to. These are the three principles. This is why if you have these values in you, no opposition, no enmity, no war, is strong enough just to deviate you from the cause. And at the end of the day, you will emerge victorious. So we should be very careful to differentiate between ideological attractions and Islamic spiritual entrenchment in our minds. There are two different things. And I think the world Islamically, what I mean when I say the world, I mean the Islamic world. Most of the youths are moved or are impelled rather than the Islamic concept of what is Islam, but most of them are moved and motivated by ideological powers, which is very dangerous. This is why this topic is relevant and very important. And we, by the help of Allah, I will not derive my evidences from any source except one infallible source. And that source is the Holy Quran. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think in suratul Isra verse 9, Allah says clearly, I think that's chapter 17 of the Quran. Allah says subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يَحْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. So obviously here Allah is declaring to the Muslim mind and conscience that this Holy Quran, not any other book, but this book is a manual of guidance, is a power that when you use, anything that you want to know and you want to apply and you want to use as a tool, either of reformation or transformation or even transmission, is only through this Quran and the prophetic examples of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why I'm going to base my entire discourse and the evidences I'm going to glean as a manual for the students, because the title is The Characteristics of a Good Student. We are really in dire need of understanding who is a student and who is a good student, and why should we dilate on such a very important, relevant topic that is impacting almost on everybody in our Islamic community. Because in fact, da'wah has gradually become a scorching fire when you are in the field of da'wah in the Gambia, as if you are walking on hot charcoal. Because the slightest error, even a mistake, somebody will just come out of there, an alien from the moon or from Neptune, who will try to just break your back, your neck, simply because there is a difference of understanding between his perception that was instilled in him, not by himself, by the forces of instilling. Because if the Quran instills you with ideas, you will never go against the teachings of the Quran. As he rightly quoted, "Ud'u ila sabila rabbika bil hikmah wal maw'izati al hasana wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan." I don't know why do we divide the Quran. I don't know why are we so divisive among ourselves. So here is a big problem. But anyway, if Muslims, if we are true to what we claim to be, I think nobody, except if your understanding or your assessment or your analysis is different from mine, pertaining to what is taken from the Quran as an evidence and as an example. Because a university is a step. It's a very high step in the ladder of achieving education or knowledge. So I don't expect anybody in a university level to be somebody who can easily be manipulated psychologically or mentally. It is the Quran and the Sunnah that should be your binocular, that should be your compass, and that should be your resort and your dependent. That's the fundamentals. But unfortunately, it is not happening in the Gambia. This is why I believe in critical thinking, analytical, conclusions, and a confirmed belief in whatever you are taking. It doesn't matter you speak good English or bad English. What is important for you to have a very valid, valuable concept and understanding. May Allah help us. So the topic is, who is a good student? Can somebody define what is a student to me, derived from the English word study? Can somebody help me and define it for me? Not from the dictionary definition. I need your own independent Gambian definition. Who is a student? Is it the person or the pupil in the primary, nursery, high school, secondary school, or it is the person in the university or with the PhDs? Everybody is a student, because we are learning continuously to the day we are just, soil is covered onto our dead bodies. Everybody is a student. This is why the Quranic command, Iqra, will always be a command to the end of time. Iqra. It will never be a past tense or a present tense, but it is an imperative tense. That is, you do it, then everybody is a student continuous. You know, one of the secrets why Africans, they go to school and they are taught, but most of them are not educated. Listen to this. They go to school and they are taught, but most of them are not educated. Because education is not simply the quantity of information that you have harbored in your mind. Because you have a limited space of your brain. It's just like the megabytes of a mobile. It will be full. But education is simply to translate that information from that abstract level to a practical level, impacting, changing, and transforming yourself and your society or your community. This is knowledge. My master's, my PhD. But how many PhDs and masters do we have in this country? This is why the most dangerous form of education is the British abstract education. You just pass your exam, you get you this degree, and you go and find a white-collar job in the office, and that's okay with you. As long as you are developing yourself, you don't care about the backwardness of the community. And this is killing Africa, and it's killing the Muslim Ummah here. Let's go to the Holy Quran. As a point of reference, I think every Muslim, alhamdulillah, most of the youths are memorizers of the Holy Quran. But I still challenge the youths to be very ponderous, reflective, analytical, critical, and to go beyond the normal. Because if you are not going beyond the normal, you are still a mediocre. Anybody who is not beyond the normal, you are still a mediocre and ordinary mind. We need great minds. And I'll give you an example why mediocrity is a sin, an intellectual sin. To repeat what your lecturer told you in the auditorium is absolutely absurd, and it is out of context for educational, sophistication. But we get the Quran. Everything in phenomena has two aspects or two components. That is the visible and the invisible, isn't it? You see the visible, but the invisible is there. You don't see it. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because your senses of perception are not given the opportunity to see it, but it is there. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Let's go to the Holy Quran. But in the Anglia, sometimes when I'm not angry, but when my chains are broken, I go beyond the grammatical level. Is it okay with you? Okay. When my linguistic chains are broken, I don't even observe the grammatical standards. But may Allah help us. So let's go to suratul Kahf, chapter 18 of the Holy Quran, from verse number 60 to number 82. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. The best example for a student, or the best step that a student should follow as a Muslim, is the studentship of Musa alayhi salam. Musa was a great prophet. And Musa was an interlocutor with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was directly, Allah was directly talking to Musa alayhi salam. But nonetheless, Musa is one of the most critical students that history has ever written or narrated. Suratul Kahf, verse number 60 to verse number 80. Listen very carefully. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ, when Musa told his servant, I will never stop walking and searching for knowledge until and unless I reach a place where the two waters meet. This is the verse from number 60. Isn't it? The story is long, but we are going to get the nitty-gritty, the nutrition, the psychological, cure, the treatment is what we are going to get out of these verses. From verse number 60 to 82. Very short verses, but it is an encyclopedia for you to qualify or for you to evaluate anybody who is a good student and who is not a good student. Then, a good student is anybody who has the desire to know. Because Musa says, I will never stop walking, going for this knowledge until and unless I arrive there, or it will take me a long time. That is a long time. I'll be walking until I reach there. That is the quest for knowledge. There must be that determination, that inner love and desire to know what is knowledge. But you see, our problem, as I said in the initial opening, is I can't know. But we hardly hear people say, I don't know sotole. In the Gambia, what we hear is, I can't know. I can't know because the person has that eloquence, that power of clarity. And there is a lot of information behind his mind. But I don't know, so we hardly hear people singing about it. Londo is connected to good conduct. But Londo is connected to the quantity of information in your mind, as we are taught in the universities. For 4 years, they give you a degree, and they told you have a bachelor, go for master's, then a PhD. If at all knowledge and information are the same, a PhD, a master's, a bachelor's degree should never deviate from whatever is righteousness. Then, a good student is somebody who knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we come to that because Musa alayhi salam, we say it is the embodiment of the characteristic of a good student. The desire was there. You must have the desire. Don't say people are in it, let me go into it. And make sure that you know what type of knowledge do you want to study and why do you want to study it for the short term and the long term benefit. Just like some of the women, they got their degrees and they go and stay in the houses. It's absolutely absurd and misunderstood. That has no meaning. You cannot have your degree in science or any other language in Islamic knowledge, then you go and sit in the house. Okay, we can say if the priority is for you to sit there, then that is your right place. But otherwise, you go out into society, and just society just licked, or society be impacted by your knowledge. So a good student has a desire to go for knowledge. This is why knowledge is always based on facts and truth and reality. Now, Mira, as we are doing now, I just buy a book, or I bought a book from the bookstore or a bookshop, written by an eminent scholar. I mean, the man is trying to reflect his understanding of the situation in that book. I read that book, not analytically, not critically, not using independently my own intellect. Then I memorized the book and I started using that book, to fight against other people who are in complete opposition to my standing or my position. And this is what is happening in the Gambia. Sometimes I start innovation for the Gambian youth. You know, they can imitate and some can emulate. Some are good imitators, but most of them are emulators. An example is Zakir Naik. Zakir Naik is one of the greatest phenomenal gifts that Allah has given to the Ummah. But you will find that even that person is not immune against the denigration of the evil-minded people. But that man is a gift to the Ummah. You see, the Gambian youth, they are so perfect in imitation and emulation. If some of them emulate Zakir Naik on the podium, you think that you are having a black Gambian Zakir Naik talking to you. But they will never go beyond Zakir Naik. They are always in the ordinary box. And I want them to go beyond Zakir Naik, to be greater than him. This is what I want. May Allah help us. Let's go back to verse number 60 to 82. The desire must be there. Musa told his servant, I will go for this as long as it is there and achievable. I will go for that. And Musa went on. To make the story short, Musa continued searching for the location where an appointment is made. When actually an incident happened, they passed the place. An incident happened. There was a fish. Either it was cooked, uncooked, it's not important, but a fish symbolizes something. You don't go for the tail when the head and the body is already there. You need to get lessons. What does that benefit you? And this is how they deceive the Ummah. We go after petty things and we forget the important things. Somebody was telling me, why Bukana follow? Should I put on a hat? Every sect in this Gambia has identified itself with NFO. And I am independent and neutral. I will never put on NFO. Because if I do, they will associate me with one sect against the other. Except if I put it on cultural basis, the African culture. Allah. Never be a petty person in Islam. Always be a complete full person. Let's go. So Musa alayhi salam, the boy, actually, an incident happened which actually overtook the surprise of the servant. Either it was a cooked fish, went right into the water, وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ سَرَبًا, into the water. But the boy forgot, because when a situation is strange, sometimes it makes you completely forget and oblivious of the consequences of your deeds and acts. They continue. And actually, you see how sequential Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands and directives are connected. You know, they were walking to a destination, they forget something upon which their livelihood depends, and when the desire to eat, the instinct to eat, hunger comes as a manifestation, you know, Musa inquired about the food, but unfortunately what happened is the fish got his way into the water. وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا. Allahu Akbar. When Musa realized that actually that was the place, that was the sign, that was the indicator where they are supposed to meet someone, وَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلُهُ وَارْتَدَّ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ قَصَصًا. Musa said, it is that very place that we are seeking for. And they returned where that incident actually happened. Allahu Akbar. When that incident happened, when they arrived there, they found, Allah says, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. Allahu Akbar. Allah says, Musa found a servant, and in English or in Arabic, that servant in the Quranic language has double critical nakira. It means a common noun or a generic noun. You cannot specify who the person is, but Allah says, Abdan min ibadina. Well, that is commonly who they call Khidr, isn't it? And when Musa found that man, look at what Musa demanded from the man. Should I follow you for you to teach me what you have been taught in righteousness and guidance? What do you glean? What do you learn from this verse? هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت, in the passive sense or the passive mood of the verb. And تعلمني, the active mood, for you to teach me what you were taught. Because whatever that servant was doing was not out of his own action. It was revealed because Allah says, آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ لَدُنَّا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. In Arabic, the word ladun, ladder, anywhere the word ladder in the Holy Quran is employed, it means somebody has control over that situation. So the knowledge that the person is supposed to give to Musa is under the control of Allah, not the control of the person himself. Isn't it? So this is why, as a good student, you must first of all know where to get your knowledge. Know where to get your knowledge. But don't say, I heard that Sheikh Jaiteh is a philosopher, is a logician, is a mathematician, is a science student, so I'm not going to get my knowledge from him. Look, there is no boundary, color, or taste, or even sense to a knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. It is your mind. As long as you are a correct, mature person, it is your mind that is going to tell you this is wrong and this is right. The Quran contains 114 chapters. But even in those chapters, Allah narrated everything. Yet some people don't believe in the Holy Quran. And they are still opposing the Holy Quran because their minds are not yet in a pattern to absorb and to conceive and to understand the authenticity and the truth of the Holy Quran. Brothers and sisters, You must know where to get your knowledge. And I said, every phenomenon, everything in nature has two aspects, the visible and the invisible. So here, we want to give you how to behave like a good student. Moses asked the person to follow the teacher, for the teacher to teach him what he has been taught. But what? Righteousness, mimma udlimta rushda. You know, you know, the component missing in our schools, from primary school or nursery schools. When we were in the primary school, then there was no nursery school. I don't know, nursery school is a ploy, or it is a strategy, or it is a sign of progress or backwardness, I don't know. For me personally, I cannot even understand why a nursery school, except for working parents. But even there, if they can pay a nursery school, they can pay a maid servant. Because the child needs to be brought up culturally when it is at that formative age to understand the realities of the family and the society. But in nursery school, it is PIG, pig, COT, cot, BOG, big, EEAP, it. That's the only thing they give them there. And the toys, and all the toys are kebab toys. Even the baby toys are colored white. There is no black color toy in the schools, in the nursery schools. Psychological warfare. I think you get my point. So look at it. Whatever you want to learn, make sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the objective. Righteousness and guidance. Yalong ikamolu jele ko, okay, let me go to the Faculty of Science because the market is in need, because it's conducive to get job. Let me go into banking because the Gambia is awash with banks. A country of less than 3 million having almost 18 banks. This is why poverty will never leave the Gambia. Never leave the Gambia. More than 18 banks. A population of less than 3 million. What are they doing here? So, banking students, finance, economic students should use their brain. Try to analyze why all these banks, why all this competition here. Because you and I have been taught and trained and inculcated with an economic system that is completely alien and is killing me and killing you. That is the Western economic system. No, we cannot think. I don't know what mediocrity is this. It don't tell PhD certificate will be $10 and somebody will be telling you, I am double masters, triple masters, quadruple masters. Your masters cannot even kill a dirimo. Because dirimo da malaka dun dingo kon aya fango soke. Bari ita kana buka bungo fango lono. No, it's just painful. So Allah Jan Jubeban, look at this point. Whatever you want to be a good student, go for righteousness, limma or limta rushda. But the condition of the teacher is sometimes very difficult. We come into the visibility and the invisibility of phenomenon. Abstract knowledge compared to practical knowledge for you to become a good student. But what I'm saying is the limited understanding I have about those verses. When you go home, try to ponder more and deeper on that verses and get more knowledge than I am telling you now. It's the principle of increasing knowledge. And look, the condition set to Musa, you know why? Because Musa is a very good student, alayhi salatu wasalam. Because according to the understanding of Musa, nothing should go against the teachings of Allah. Nobody should do something that is wrong in the sight of Allah. No matter what that person is, how big that person is. This is why Musa will come to argue with the teacher regardless of the condition that was set for him. It's called abstract and theoretical knowledge. Visible and invisible knowledge. For you to be a good student. if they stigmatize or dogmatize or demonize myself before you, don't accept their caricature. Come and sit with me and ask me, why are you caricature? Why are you a monkey, not a cow? And I will tell you, a monkey steals, but a cow never steals. This is a phrase. The understanding is left with you. Crack your brains. You understand what I mean? The teacher set a condition, and Musa said he would accept the condition, a good student. The first thing is have fear of Allah. Second, go for righteousness and justice. Wherever righteousness and guidance is, that student will never be unjust. That student will never be cruel, and that student will always be supporting and defending and advocating what is good and right. And the man and this young man quoted the verse, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. When this is well established in our community, absolutely there will be no evil. Nobody can eliminate evil from existence, but you can minimize the impact and the harm of evil in your community. Okay? And they went, and they started moving, and they boarded a ship. Imagine, a ship to cross from one bank to another. And the first thing the man did was, the teacher, was to damage that ship, because the ship was a new ship. The man had to damage that ship. A good student is with him. Who is that? Musa. And the condition is, never ask me why I do something except and until I explain the meaning to you. But you cannot be slapping my face and telling me not to cry. Is it possible? No, it cannot be. Kani domo ni nyagi bole katanyon. Huh? Isn't it okay? A good example is, it always happens to everybody in situations in life. And the man damaged a new ship, and that ship belonged to needy people. Al-Masakin. In the Quranic linguistic or in the Quranic etymology, Al-Miskin wal-Faqir. That is a difference. When you say a miskin has a means, but the means are not sufficient to meet his needs. But a faqir is somebody who is entirely in need without any means. And the ship belongs to who? Masakin. And they were, crossing and transporting or ferrying people from one bank to another. And he damaged the ship. Well, Musa, as a messenger and a prophet and a person of good conscience and a good student, can never be silent in the face of evil. In the human language, that is evil. This is why a good student, anybody who sits down and sees evil, there is no problem as long as it has not impacted or influenced me. There's no problem. Anybody who is thinking in that man with that mindset, that person is smart. He should be in tanka, not in the community. And this is what is happening. And the Quran has asked us, commanded us, wal takun, and this is imperative. It should be, it must be, and it must be implemented, and it must be established. But we don't do it. The only thing we establish in the Quran and we do is the Salatul Khams and Juma and Eid. But the Quran has given us so many commandments, and among is this, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ. We think in fact Gambia we don't have da'wah. In the Gambia we have zikra. فَذَكِّرْ إِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Because we always call each other, reminding each other, but we never go beyond the Muslim perimeter to go and invite others to Islam. What da'wah are we doing? Our da'wah is just to be insulting each other, denigrating each other, downgrading each other. Man, it doesn't have any basis. This deed is not for that. This deed is for human elevation, development, progression, spiritually or holistically, in every aspect of man's existence, here and there. And the teacher damaged the ship. So a good student will never sit down or stand by and see, even if you are passing, never allowed to see anything that is wrong and you say, no, it doesn't concern me. Mind your business is in Islam, but it is called positive mind your business. Don't go, voluntarily and intentionally to search for the downfall or the shortcomings of others. But whatever happens in your presence and is evil, make sure that you intervene, you try to stop it. You see, it's sometimes pitiful and it's sometimes troubling and it's sometimes even irritating. It is only in the Gambia whereby people will find a dead cat or a dog hit by a car. The mad driver who committed that crime doesn't even look back. And the Gambians will just be crossing, jumping that dead dog. Nobody will have that national patriotic decision just to pull that dog from the road and dig the hole and just bury it. At least an animal, because created by Allah, Allah has given that respectability to everything, even the mosquito, Anopheles mosquito that causes malaria. So we leave the basics and we go for where? May Allah help us. So this man damaged the ship. So a good student will never sit and see something that is not good without complaint. Musa said, أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها. لقد جئت شيئا إمرا. You have actually brought something that is actually unacceptable. Because you cannot be on the board of a ship, and so many are on board of that ship, and that ship belongs to the poor people, and yet you want to destroy that ship. That doesn't make any sense. In any standard, based on any criteria, there is no sense in that. But as I told you, there is always a visible and invisible aspect of knowledge. This is the most important thing. Go. Allah informandinka kauni sura kawala aliya moiba. Ite songo fenge dunia ay kufra le soto niya kilimo long hanim bi man londo soto walakin na yeko kuje banta afasare munatin na iman dumaje. Do you know that the mountains that are below the sea level, those mountains are deeper and longer in length than the one at the top? Let's say Mount Everest. Anybody can just tell me, because Gambians are good in memorization to Babu Safero. Anybody can tell me how many feet is Mount Everest? 8,000 plus feet, isn't it? But Mount Everest, the mountain that is right into the sea, is longer and deeper than 8,000 plus feet. So you are seeing the one outside, but the one inside you are not seeing it. And it's longer and stronger. This is knowledge. Everything is visible and invisible. This is why when the visible sees the invisible, it is false. I think you understand that point. Those people, they are given 5 senses, and they can perceive reality with their senses, and they can see the person who claims to be God. This one is a visible, and you claim to be invisible, and the visible is seeing the invisible. That is false. Alon fale ni ko mo moy le bang aliya moy ha moy na ko konta mo alalet amin ka diya mo inya bale tulo ba ala dum manyan na kaje ite dum min akadiya mo ite ate jele o ta ta kala no ala di bawo ite ate jele ka ite ka jele ate ka jele ala dum bu ka je o ta be faniya. I think you get the point. So Musa alayhi salam is a good student. He told the teacher, the condition is I should not ask you anything, but this is beyond endurance. I cannot bear this beyond human endurance. It's against my law, it's against the law of nature. You cannot board a ship belonging to the poor people and other passengers and you try to destroy that ship. That cannot be. But Musa, in this context, he himself, he was a child. This is why what happened when you were a child, if somebody is older than you, don't try to challenge him much. If you do, you find yourself, you become what is called a laughing stock. When Musa was a baby, how was he transported from his mother's house to the Pharaoh's house? Was it not in a box? And in that box, he was not, the water didn't touch it. The same thing, a ship is transporting people from one bank to another bank. The same situation happened to Musa when he was a child. I'm talking about a visible and invisible aspect of knowledge. A good student should never shy away from evil, no matter from whom or when and where. When it happens, try to complain against it. Even if your teacher should tell you, no, don't complain. Complain because it's against your principles. If my teacher, I'm a teacher, writing or giving you Islamic studies, and I tell you, no, there is 155 chapters in the Holy Quran, if I should say that, for example. And you, the student, because you hold me in high respect, you just keep on shaking your head. Is that correct? Absolutely, it's wrong. Don't do that. But out of pure respectability, you must, caution me, alert me with full respect that, teacher, what you have added on the numbers of 144 or 114 is wrong. Okay, let's go, a good student. But the old man, the teacher told Musa, I told you, you can never be patient with whatever I am going to do. I have done one, I am left with 2 for your 3 classes. You are going to fail the exams based on my criteria, but you are going to pass your exams based on your human criteria. Look at this. Alim fahamu bata. Musa failed the exams based on the criteria of the teacher. But Musa passed the exam based on the criteria of Allah. Because whatever the teacher is going to do is wrong in the sight of Allah. But before you jump, blaming me, teacher, don't do it. Wait for me to explain to you. Anything that you hear, you don't understand, don't pass judgment precautiously or prematurely like that. Just ask me, why did you do this or why did you say this? Isn't it? A good student is always in support and in defense of truth, no matter from who. And this teacher said, I told you, you could never be patient with my actions or my lessons. And you see, before here, the teacher actually emphasized to Musa that كيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرة. How can you be patient with something that you have no knowledge of? Because Musa has no knowledge of the invisible, but he knows the visible. Because it's perceivable by our 5 senses. But this one, Allah says, آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ إِنْدِنَا, giving the status, وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّ عِلْمًا, the knowledge is given by Allah. Isn't it? Okay, they went, after some time, the teacher killed an innocent young man, which is worse than the first one. The first one is material destruction, and it is replaceable. But the second one is destruction of an innocent soul. وَمَا كَانَتْ لِنَفْسٍ أَن تَمُوتَ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ قَتَلَ نَفْسًا بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ أَوْ فَسَادٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. So Musa knows that killing an innocent child, especially a young man, is absolutely out of the ordinary. Nobody can accept that. But Musa knows that actually, practically, it's wrong. But the consequences that are coming, Musa doesn't know. So, a good student, make sure that you are a protector and a defender of human life. You know, we have so many Gambians calling themselves human rights activities. And these human rights activities, it is a universal value and concept. But we've been taught in their institutions to know what is human rights. But I would rather say they should have called him man's rights rather than human rights. Because Allah called me insan bani Adam, isn't it? But they call it human rights. My humanity and that of the American humanity are completely different. When somebody kills an American mistakenly in the world, the United Nations will convene for an emergency meeting. But go and kill 1,000 black people in North Africa, nobody even just cry. Then our humanities are different. But we are man, belonging to one father, Adam. Ya Bani Adam. This is why the Quran says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا بَنِي Adam. And it didn't say, وَلَقَدْ كَرَمْنَا الْإِنسَانِ. So a good student should be a defender of the lives of the innocent people, no matter what the consequences is. But you must ask first, why do you kill this person? Why? And the third station is, a good student, Musa said, أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيًّا. You kill something that is very pure and innocent. لَقَدْ جِئِتَ بِشَيْءٍ. Look at the promotion and the elevation and the aggravation of the linguistic power of the Holy Quran. The first one is لَقَدْ جِئِتَ أَمْرًا إِمْرًا. But the second one, لَقَدْ جِئِتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. This is something unknown. No civilized person can do this. To kill an innocent child? No civilized person. It's not known. It is out of the parameter of the conventions of people. And the teacher complained again. I told you, you can never be patient and enjoy with me concerning what I'm doing. You want to learn. You are very much, you have the zeal, you have the determination, you have the desire to learn, but you cannot learn because what I'm teaching you is beyond the normal. It's beyond the mundane. It is called the sublime. It is the knowledge of Allah, of the invisible, and you are learning the visible. A good student. Very important lesson. You know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us not to be backbiting each other? Because in the Holy Quran you have haram, you have forbidden. We are forbidden from backbiting. You know why? No matter how the recipient of a backbiting message is good, no matter how good you are, how God-fearing you are, how much you are following the Sunnah, if somebody keeps biting somebody else in your ears, one day you develop a concept against that person. Mobuka koma kumaro ke miye Gambia wonsi. Ise yon koma kuma hanimburo. Ni tata bitikoto bitikitia sa fa ente dontola. Katu mole na taja ko ibuka julojo mburo tapala pate dontola. It has become a disease. It has become so endemic and so inveterate, it cannot be cured. In the Gambia, if you don't backbite, you are even considered to be an ignorant person. So we have that problem. I think we are with me, huh? Then from there, the teacher told Musa, you cannot bear with me. And the third station, which is very important for a good student, they went into a town, they requested for food and for lodging. The jewelers of the town refused to provide these, prerequisites, these necessary things were vitals for the guests. But look, the teacher saw a wall of a house almost on the verge of collapsing. And the only thing he could do is to just mend it, and he walked on it. And look, Musa is very intelligent here. He said, since these people refuse to lodge us and give us food, then it's very good and it's very logical, actually it's very logical for you to ask them for a payment in return for what you have done for them. And this is very logical. Because it cannot make any sense. I come to you. Even if I go to you, this is what the Quran is saying, اجرأوا السيئات بالحسنات. Always repel evil with goodness. Goodness will bounce back and come to you. I come to your house asking for charity, and immediately you drive me out. Just out of your house or your gate, I found a dangerous object thrown there, and I started removing those objects. I think when you come out and find me doing that job, your conscience will beat you and tell you, look, I should not have driven out this man. Let me give him what he has asked of me. It's very logical. And Musa asked the teacher to ask the villagers to pay him for the work they do. But the explanation is here, a good student should be very reasonable and rational. Always be on the principle of tit for tat. When you do as you would like others to do with you. This is the principle that Musa was using. Then a good student is somebody who is always there to give services in return for advantages. But don't expect any advantage without giving any service. We are not politicizing, but we must draw an example. I cannot appoint you as a director or a minister, and you are receiving your salary full scale, but you are not delivering what you are supposed to do. Actually, it's unfair. So whatever you give, you must receive in return, because you've already delivered something. So a good student must make sure that whenever he wants to ask for his rights, he must know that there is an incumbent obligation and responsibility upon him before he asks for his rights. So always, the first thing that you should do is do your duties before you ask for your rights. This is the lesson we learn from there. Brothers and sisters, these are the three classes that Moses went through but failed the exams. Based on what? The criteria of the teacher. But Moses passed the exams based on the criteria of the Quran and the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Isn't it? Because there are two aspects to every knowledge, visible and invisible. When we say visible knowledge, it's knowledge that you can perceive with your five senses. But when we say invisible knowledge, it's something that a person is endowed as a result of long-term experience and practice, or the person is specially targeted and designated and appointed by Allah to be given that value and that quality and that power. But I don't say you go and claim and tell people that don't do that. Don't tell people I can read your future. Read your own future before you read my future. If your future is bright, then you share with me that brightness. But if mine is dark, don't tell me it's dark. Let me share the bright one that you have, and everything is fine. So this is the three classes. This is the lessons that we are going to derive for a good student. One, have the desire and have the zeal, have the psychological preparedness, and has the yearning, and has the long-term objective with a high sense of purpose that you want to learn truth and the facts. When the teacher started interpreting the incidents to Musa, after telling him that these are the incidents that you were unable to endure and to be patient with me. Check my time, is it there? Otherwise, I'll be talking here until... Okay. So, I asked Musa to be attentive, let him explain the meaning to him. A good student should always look for the results, for the consequences of his action today. This is why, as youthful people, in the field of dawah, be careful with the internet. Don't insult, don't denigrate, don't caricature, and don't demonize, and don't degrade, anybody in your dawah. Because whatever is inserted and slaughtered in the internet shall never be removed or deleted to the end of time. And when the generations to come, when they come, navigating in the internet to know whatever what we were doing, you will be insulted by the generation yet unborn. So be very careful and conscious of the justice of history. Be very careful, because we are sent as messengers. Look, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think in Ali Imran verse 140 or something like that, 144 I believe, where Allah is telling Muhammad, Ma kana Muhammadun aba ahadin min rijalikum. This man can quote even the numbers and everything, even the zero, this man can quote it. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم. Allah didn't say وخاتم الرسل. Allah says وخاتم النبيين. You know why? Because Muhammad is the final prophet and messenger. But Muhammad has left a book with you, and that book is the epitome of knowledge, and is the encyclopedia of life. And it is the manual of gaining or getting the blessings and the graces of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. And you as a Gambian youth, you are assigned to take that book as a letter and transmit that book to other people who have not yet received or understood the book. Then in your position, metaphorically, figuratively, you are just like a messenger. Because it is only a messenger who is carrying a letter to the person who it is intended. You get the point? Is it clear before you? I think that your man is smiling and shaking the head. I think you get it, huh? Okay, thank you very much. So look at this. He says for the first incident, that is the ship, it belongs to people who are miskin. But there is a wicked king somewhere at the other bank. And any ship that is good, that wicked king will just seize that ship and make it its own and added it on its own fleet of ships that are ferrying the people from one bank to another. You see? So a good student will always try to be what? Based on this, incident. What should you do? A good student should always be analytical. Any situation that you find yourself, make sure that you think critically and try to analyze the consequences, why this should happen, and who has caused it to happen, at what time, at what space, and why. If you ask yourself these questions, you will arrive at a very conclusive, convincing answer. Number one. Number two, and secondly, as I told you the first time, anytime you see injustice, try to find a way to avoid that injustice from falling onto innocent people. This is why there is a principle in the Western concept of life. The means justifies the end, isn't it? But that's absolutely not very Islamic. The end and the means must justify together for you to get a legitimate end. Both of them must be legitimate. Because you cannot come and steal my money and you say you're going to build a mosque with that money. That doesn't fit. The means is you steal, which is wrong. And you are going to build a mosque. That is okay. But the means is wrong, then the objective will be wrong. So all the time, look at the feasible, acceptable, moral and spiritual principles that you are going to use to avoid greater harm from falling upon people. Number one. Number two, killing of that innocent child, a good teacher and a good student. But here, nobody in the world is allowed to kill anybody except if that person committed a crime that is, the Quran has enshrined that he should be killed. Only that. Don't go and kill people in the name of religion, taking these bombs on your body and throwing bombs in the mosque and say you are working for the way of Allah. No. Allah doesn't create man to kill him. This is why Allah in the Holy Quran, Allah would tell you, huwa yuhyi wa yumeet, but Allah didn't say yuhyi wa yaqtul. It's not in the Quran. But Allah would tell you yuhyi wa yumeet, because death has many factors combined to cause death. This is why when somebody passes away, we don't say Allah le afa. What do we say? Allah le watu sita. But we say sasa le afa, moto le ataki, kulintida le boita, jie le afa. But we don't say Allah le afa. We say Allah le ake. This is what they say. So man is so respectable and dignified. You don't kill man. But the killing of this young man is symbolic. It has a meaning. It tells you that wherever you see evil, small evil growing, don't allow it to grow. This is the meaning of killing the child. At alien family, amanke kwaita mo father, because you cannot know. You are human. You cannot predict what person will be tomorrow. You cannot do it because you cannot even predict whether you pass the exams or not. How much more you can predict somebody's destiny tomorrow? I don't know how somebody can tell me tomorrow itabita arjanale, and he cannot tell himself whether he's going to pass the exams today. Or somebody come brazenly and bravely and tell me, Soma ibita jahannam ale wolam darkul asfal min jahannam. Atabita buntule nimbita mbasa mbalanyunal. Mbeta buntu. You pray for your brother to be with you in Jannah, but you don't have to assign Jahannam to your brother. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwa. This is the verse. Extremism has no place in Islam, but understanding, knowledge, wisdom, activity, translating the Sunnah, the practical example of Muhammad into your life. In fact, it is the best way of da'wah. Your practical example, showcasing your values, your virtues, is what calls people to Islam. One day, last month, somebody from a different religion called my attention. He told me, what is the beauty of your religion? What is the beauty of your religion? And where is the beautiful face and moral face of your religion? You know why he asked that question? Because the person is a keen follower of every da'wah activity in this country. And he doesn't belong to our religion. Because they have their think tank. They can assess when to strike and when to stand by knowing when we are quarreling and when we are at peace. So we have a problem. We have a big problem in this country. So the boy symbolizes what? Whatever evil you see in this world, in the Gambia, in your house, in your community, don't allow the evil to grow. Just nip it at the bud. Destroy it before it grows. Because the teacher told Moses, this boy, when he grows up, he will be a despot, a transgressor, and an ungrateful child against his parents. But you are not allowed to judge people, because judge yourself, kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahina. Every soul is responsible for what he has committed, isn't it? And the third station for a good student is, this is the most important, and the Gambia is in dire need of the third station. That is community service, selfless service, humanitarian service, service for the sake of generations to come, denying yourself of the privilege of today, and just storing whatever is good in knowledge, in money, resources, your health for the next generation for them to live. Environmental cleanliness, social symbiotic living, living in peace and harmony and understanding, spreading knowledge among your people, trying to devise ways of improving the conditions of your people. Be an ambassador for Islam. Be an ambassador for morality and values, and never be a corrupt person. Never take what is not yours. Give to people what belongs to them. Be a supporter of justice and fairness and equality in society. Never allow any material, glittering, no matter how big, to control and influence your morality and your principles of believing in Allah and in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They went into a town. The townspeople refused to lodge them and to give them food. But in return, he just assigned himself to erect the wall that was supposed to fall down. Because what? Underneath or in that house, there is a treasure that was buried there for two orphans or for orphans, and their father was a good person. Then as a youth, tomorrow you're going to get married. As a youth, tomorrow you're going to get a husband. Make sure that you are a good father and a good mother. When you are good today, tomorrow somebody will be good to your son and to your daughter. This is how a good student behaves. I think you get the point? Look, and whatever happens, if somebody denies you to do goodness to you, don't take it as a challenge or an account against him. Always, as the Quran tells us, use righteousness to defeat wickedness. When we do that, you are a good student. So this is actually the three classes where Musa passed the exams morally, but when it comes to that invisible knowledge, he failed the exams. Let's go back how a good student should behave, because one day at a time, either the same situations you pass through it, or in the future you will pass through it. Musa was born in Egypt when the Pharaoh issued a declaration to kill every Israeli baby who was a child. And Musa escaped the killing of Pharaoh's agents through what? A wooden box to the palace of Pharaoh. So that ship represents what? That canoe, that box that took Musa to the palace of Moses. What you don't expect could be a source of blessings for you. But what you like can be a source of calamity for you. Asa an tuhibbu shay'an fa huwa sharrun lakum wa asa an tukrahu shay'an fa huwa khairun lakum. And the second station is in the story of Musa, suratul, when Musa sneaked secretly into the town in Egypt, he found two men fighting. One belongs to his clan, that is the Israelites, and the other was an Egyptian. And the one who is with the same tribe with Musa asked Musa to help him against the Egyptian. And Musa pushed the Egyptian with his power, and the man died inadvertently, not intentionally, but unintentionally. Isn't it? By killing that Egyptian, Musa was able to leave Egypt to Midian, because Musa more or less was a prince in Egypt. But when you kill an Egyptian, then look at this. When you kill a citizen of Egypt during the time of Moses, and you are caught, before 10 years, you are killed. But after 10 years, you are not killed. This is why when Musa went to Midian, and when he signed the contract with his in-law, the in-law asked him to complete the term of 10 years. After 10 years, he married and came back to Egypt. Pharaoh couldn't take him to the law. That's why Pharaoh told him, وَفَعَلْتَ فَعَلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. He cannot be taken to the law. So our lawyers should go to the Quran and learn what is called limitation of status. It's there before even the lawyers, the so-called British common law, come to the Gambia. I think you get my point. So the same problem is I have 5 minutes more. The same problem is with Musa. Musa, actually, somebody was killed by him, but unintentionally, and that became a cause for him to flee out of Egypt to Midian, where the appointment will took place, where he would be assigned and commissioned as a messenger, a prophet, to come back to Egypt and overthrow the despotic and the oppressive system of Pharaoh. Then a good student is always somebody who is prepared to fight against injustice. You know, I cannot understand, me personally, I still cannot find any explanation to it.
nteta fahamun wala mobe londo sudola nyaadile mobe karawo kala nyaadile to a university, and you happen to see injustice, and you happen to see corruption, and yet you are just reticent and silent. You don't even talk about it. You don't even speak against it. For me personally, I cannot understand that. Personally, I cannot understand that, even, in fact, regardless of your educational level. But for a Muslim, this is absolutely understandable. Nobody can understand this. But look, and the final one is where the wall was about to fall, and the teacher mended the wall. When Musa went to Madian, listen to this very carefully. This is very important for a good student. When Musa arrived in Madian, before entering the village of Madian, he saw two ladies with their flocks. But those ladies couldn't water their flocks, except the men are completed with giving water to their flocks. When Musa asked them, they answered him, we could not go there until the men are done and go. Then we come and water our flocks. Then here we have two important points. The femininity sometimes is weakness. To be a lady, you should not force yourself into the wall of the men. Don't force yourself, don't compete with the men in their wall. But don't allow the men to compete with you in your wall. I think you understand what I mean. This is why gold digging is very bad. Gold digging is competing with the men in their wall and competing with the woman in their wall. And you cannot be two at once. You can only be one. This is why gold digging is not good. I think you get the point. Don't allow the men to compete you in your wall, but don't compete the men in their wall. When we do that, we live symbiotically, peacefully. Nobody will say, I am Orotile, I am Butele, I am Pusile. When you go to the graveyard, there is no complaint in the graveyard. You know why? Because everybody is sleeping there. You see? So look at this. Moses, when they told Moses their reasons why they are standing and not watering their flocks, what did Musa do? Musa what is called the manhood, the decent and modest manhood was triggered. Musa went and held those two ladies and watered their flocks, and they went home. And doing that good deed to the ladies, what was the consequences of that? Musa got a wife, isn't it? And in the same time, Musa met Allah. وَجِئِتَ عَلَىٰ قَدَرٍ يَا Musa. Musa was commissioned and made an ambassador and an instrument to go and depose that tyrannical system of Fir'aun in the capital. Isn't it? Then when you do righteousness, you are rewarded whether the person you do it or not, because when Musa's teacher meant the fence, that fence belonged to who? Orphans. And their father was good. Then when the father is good, obviously somebody will do good service to the sons. So as a good student, always try to be a good father. Always try to be a good student, and always try to be giving services to those who need it without expecting any pay. Well, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he says, وَلَا تَمْنُنْ تَسْتَكْثِرْ. Never be doing good expecting for people to give you more. When we arrive here, we say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahabati.
I have a question, answer some questions.
No. اللهم زدنا علما.
So yes, we finished that there were